as teachers, we're often sold this idea that the number one indicator of success for our students is academic performance. But I'm here to say that that's not actually true. There's another thing that we really need to be paying attention to as educators, especially when we are working with students with visual impairments. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we even came to have this idea that academic performance equals success and what actually matters and how to implement it in your classrooms today. Welcome back to the Society of Exceptional Educators. I'm Cassie Maloney, an orientation and mobility specialist with a background as a TVI, and have been in the field for over 17 years now. I'm also the founder here at the Society of Exceptional Educators, where we provide 21st century teaching techniques to all teachers working with students with visual impairments. And today we're going to really be diving into not only what actually matters for our students, but where we got this idea and this notion from that we need to be focused on academic performance, and that's the number one key indicator of success for us. I'm going to challenge that today and say there's actually something better. And if we can get our students to be successful in that area, then we've actually done our job. I'm also going to give you a comprehensive framework to help you get your students to that end goal that we really want them to be having, which is the ultimate success. And because this is only a 10 to 15-minute video, we will be going deeper into this in a live training, in a workshop. I'll give you the information at the very end, but I'm not going to go into that right now. Let's look at Maslow's hierarchy to begin with. I love this image because it has Wi-Fi on the bottom. We know that all of our needs start at the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, and this image is from Tumblr. It's just hilarious because Wi-Fi is the number one need. But really, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy, we all understand that our psychological needs come first, and then our physical safety, and then our emotional safety, our belonging and love, and then our internal safety, our self-esteem, and then we can have self-actualization. Now, we can't have self-actualization if we don't feel safe. We all get that sort of concept, right? But what we don't talk enough about is actually the pyramid of learning. Now, this is an image that I took and I adapted from a book that is in the occupational therapy realm. It's called How Does Your Engine Run? And it is laid out in the same formula. However, in this case, what I did was I just put it into the iceberg. Because really, when we're looking at academic skills, that's what we see at the top. And we know that skills are multi-causal, meaning that all components of each skill has to be fully developed in order for us to actually see the skill happen. So for example, I like to talk a lot about motor development because that's what my master's degree was in. But if we're looking at a baby reaching and not ATNR reaching, but like actually purposefully reaching, all of the components of the arm, the muscular structure, the proprioceptive information from their shoulder, all of that has to come into play before they can actually reach their arm out. And so when we're looking at this pyramid of learning, you can see at the bottom that we have the nervous system. When we have our nervous system in check, then we can move up. Then we have our sensory systems, and in our sensory systems, that's where we understand where our body is, our sensory motor development, and that's talking about like our motor development. Where is our body scheme? And then we've got perceptual motor development, and then on top of that, we have cognition and intellect. This is where academic learning, daily living skills, and behavior can be seen and they can grow. But without all of those other things happening, we can't actually see those skills develop. Now, I want you to take this into consideration because this isn't the only thing going on within our education system. We've been taught that in order to be successful, we have to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades. But so many people have shown us time and time again that that's actually not true. I just did a quick Google search on billionaires who dropped out of college, and there are so many, and a lot of these names and faces are very familiar to a lot of us. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. There are a lot of people I also don't know. I would love to be one of those. Can I be a billionaire and nobody know who I am? But the case stands that we don't have to be the top of our class. We don't have to graduate magna cum laude from college in order to be successful. So that kind of proves that academic performance is not the number one indicator of success, because all of these men that I see here, oh, Oprah, we've got a woman too, they've been highly successful without that top esteemed academic performance. So let's actually look at how this whole thing started. We know that the education system was created by the Rockefellers. Rockefellers, not educators, Rockefellers, business owners. That's right, business owners. Schools were created not for maximum success for the pupils, but for the success of the businesses. And you can see these two old images side by side here of factory workers and students in a classroom. Now, you don't need me in a YouTube video to tell you that there are a lot of parallels between industrial workers and what our students go through. There are also a lot of parallels between what our students go through and jail, but that's a whole other story. When we're looking at how schools were developed and how a lot of things are still happening, we still have a cafeteria, we still have a lot of classes with desks in a row and the teacher at the front. We still have students who have to raise their hand to go to the bathroom. And I'm not necessarily saying that these are bad things. They are ways to control the population, and they are ways to decrease behaviors, because not every kid can go to the bathroom whenever they feel like it. And I completely get that. But when we look at the origin of education, it was not set up for the success of our students. It was set up for performance, but not actual success. And now we have a situation where the industrial age is over. The information age is probably over. We're probably stepping into a different era right now, especially with all this AI. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of our students are not going to go down the linear career path that we expected them to. You know, a lot of times when students with visual impairments have to go through like vocational programs, they're still being trained for factory jobs. Now, factory jobs are no longer even available to them because they've got robots to do it. And now we've got robots to program the robots. It's wild. So, what is actually happening? Well, in the 21st century, traditional stereotypes of career paths are predicted to collapse. This is an excerpt from Harvard Business Review that shows that traditional stereotypes of career paths are going to be changing. There are a bunch of different articles like this, and I'll show you one of my other favorite ones. It's from Forbes. Let's move Malphos a little bit over here. So Forbes is talking about freelancers increasing by 4 million in 2022. What are freelancers? They are people who have to work for themselves. They cannot survive in a situation if they are expecting somebody to be their boss. If they are still having that student or employee mindset, they cannot be successful. And yet, freelancers increased by 4 million just a few years ago. The number of professionals who freelanced increased to 64 million Americans, or 38% of the US workforce. That is a lot. Now, we know that in the 21st century, education looks a lot different because the purpose of education is no longer to create factory workers. And we know that the purpose of education is still to create workers. We're still in a capitalistic society. We need people who can work. But the landscape of what jobs are available is changing so fast that we have to prepare our students for what's coming down the future. We have to prepare our students now for jobs that do not exist yet. And with AI coming on board, it's even more important that our students learn how to think and how to operate, not as the doer, as in the Industrial Revolution, not even as the thinker, as in the past, however many years, but as the creators and the people who are using deciphering skills in order to train their AI bots. So here's a quote that I really like. It's from an article called 21st Century Skills for Students, and it says that 21st century education prepares students with the skills needed to succeed in a rapidly changing world, that it responds to economic, topological, and social social shifts by providing an education that sets students up for jobs that may or may not even exist yet. Now, I was just talking with somebody who's my neighbor, and what he does is he trains AI bots. Now, that job didn't even exist a few years ago, but now there's an entire profession on it. And that's just one example of how using 21st century skills will help your students to increase their ability to be workers. But there's also so much more that we need to get into, because 21st century success is not just about being the best worker. It's about being the best person overall. Because if we can't get to work, if we can't take a shower and smell good, if we don't have an understanding of our own needs, of our own boundaries, of our own way that we like to do things, and if we can't collaborate with others, we cannot survive in the workplace. So it's not just about academic success, it's about success as a whole person outside of school. And there's a 4-part framework that I have just distilled over many years of working not only with my own students, but with my teaching teams as well. So if you don't know anything about my story, I was working as an orientation and mobility specialist at a really, really great school, and all of the teachers were trained TVIs. Like all the classroom teachers were trained TVIs. I mean, like golden, right? And that showed me the epitome of what should be, what could be. Because we had like this incredible collaboration model. You could see people in the hallway and have like a 2-minute meeting. And it really showed me what an interdisciplinary system could look like. And then I became contract. And I don't know if you know anything about contract teaching, but it's wild. It's a much different story. Nobody's telling you anything. Nobody's going to even introduce you to the TVI. Nobody's going to check in on you. You are just a placeholder so the school does not get sued often. And if you don't have your skills, if you don't have all of your stuff together, and if you can't step outside of your own comfort zone or figure everything out on your own, it can be a very tricky place. But with that, I then stepped into an environment where the teachers aren't all trained. They don't know. They may never have seen a student with a visual impairment. And then they get the student and they're reading their papers in August, right? Because nobody tells you your student caseload before you show up on your first day. And they're like, oh, I have 4 days. 4 days to learn an entire world. Now, in the world of teaching students with visual impairments, we have an expanded core curriculum. And it's a framework that helps to set students up for success. There are 9 skill areas. If you're interested in that, after this video, go check out my other videos about what is the ECC. I think that would really help you to have a better understanding of that. But we're going to keep going. And I'm going to have you go back to that so that way you can see the 9 areas. But if you don't know them, that's a-okay. What your TVIs and your orientation mobility specialists and even your CADIS are doing is they are relying on their understanding of the expanded core curriculum, and they have an extensive understanding of this. But you can't go to school for 5 years in 4 days. Like, that's impossible. And then on top of that, we have a lot of paraeducators, TAs, and even related service staff who come and go. It's not uncommon for our paraprofessionals to have this incredible working relationship with a student, and then the admin comes and says, "Oh, sorry, I need you here for either today or the week or the rest of the year." And the paraprofessional has to go. So then our student with the visual impairment gets another paraprofessional. And it's March 3rd. And another professional on May 12th. And another professional again when they come back in August. And it can be high turnover positions. Paraprofessionals are high turnover positions just in general. But when we are working with students with visual impairments, that relationship is key. And the transfer of knowledge is key. And oftentimes we can't do that. So let's break it down for you. The 4 areas that if you are working with students with visual impairments, that you are going to be focusing on. And I'm going to walk you through each of these areas. We're not going to dive very deep into this. I am having a free workshop on May 15th. If you want to get more information about that, the link is down below. At the very end of this video, I will give you the URL address to sign up for it. It's completely free. Yes, there is a replay, but I do encourage you to come and join us live. But so without even knowing the areas of the ECC, you can still begin to implement these. The first and foremost thing that we need to be focusing on is that with 21st century success, this is a framework, a 4-pillar framework to skyrocket the academic and daily living skills of your students with visual impairments. The first part of that framework is interpreting their vision in order to inform instruction. So what that looks like is you not just reading the paper, but you actually having enough foundational knowledge to sit down and see your classroom, see your work, see how you teach from their perspective. The second one that you are going to be focusing on is using teaching strategies for non-visual learning. I want you to rethink your instruction. So it's no longer a matter of, oh, I have to get this worksheet to the TVI in time or the Braille list in time. It's what is the purpose of this worksheet and what manipulatives do I have in order to help my student understand these concepts? And what concept gaps do I need to fill so that way they actually get what I'm saying? Because students with visual impairments often learn very differently. They don't learn in the same whole to part learning as our students with vision. The third area, and I hope you're taking notes and I hope you're jotting down some ideas of like what you can do, because we're going to go a lot deeper into this in the workshop. But for right now, getting some ideas is good. The next part of it is their mobility. How can you support their orientation and mobility skills in order to build confidence one step at a time? Do you know what their cane skills need to look like? Do you know what to say at a street crossing? Do you know whether the orientation and mobility specialist wants you to wave the cars on or wait, or what that looks like on your school campus? Because again, if your student cannot get to your classroom, they cannot learn. If your student is sitting there and learning and then they have to go to the bathroom and they can't get there by themselves, you either have to pull another student to help them, which increases their learned helplessness, or they have to wait for a really long time. Either way, they're all the way down at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy and they're not learning. And once you get all of those into place, the next thing that you need to be doing is understanding 21st century collaboration for consistent student growth. Because the way that we collaborated in the past is no longer working. Nobody's reading your emails. But there are ways that you can increase the way that you get people to do things very quickly. We'll go over a little bit about this in the workshop itself, but for now, just think about how can I make my communication quicker and more efficient and not wait as long. Like, can it be pretty consistent and quick communication? Now, we are going to be going over this in a free workshop on May 15th. I'm really excited to be sharing this. This will be the first time that I'm sharing this framework and these ideas live with you guys. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback from our community because over the past 17 years and really over the past 6-7 years, I've been noticing that when teachers can implement these 4 parts of these pillars, they can increase their students' academic and daily living skills without even having to memorize the 9 areas of the ECC. If you could sit down in the student's chair and see your classroom from their perspective, and then rethink your instruction, and then help them to increase their mobility skills, and then get them to generalize their skills because you are able to collaborate, you are going to go so much further than if you just memorize 9 ECC areas. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that and to give you ideas and answer all of your individual questions. If you want to join us, we are at exceptionaleducators.us/workshop. This is your 21st Century Success workshop. I really hope that you come because this is going to be the place where you can get all of your questions answered. Yes, even in May, because right now is the 4th quarter. Like, we are at 4th and 10, my friend, and it is about to be the goal. How do you say? The winning field goal right here. This is the time. This is our moment. And we, as educators, have 2 choices. We can kind of slink off into the back, say, oh, summer's coming, or we can step up. We can continue to show up and begin to expand our skills, no matter whether we have 1 student with a visual impairment, no matter if we have like 25 years of experience, or we are just curious because we're going to have a student with a visual impairment sometime in the near future. So again, I encourage you to join us. We will be there on May 15th. If you need to catch the replay, still go ahead and register because we have to have that in order for you to get the replay. But I really want you there live. I want all of your questions to be answered. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to email us at theteam@exceptionaleducators.us. Our community managers will be happy to help you. And until next week, I hope that you can use this information to help you take a step forward.